they've got a lot to do to stay in the Champions League, Simon. Of that, there is no doubt. And the damage was done earlier on. They're up against AC Milan tomorrow night. Must win. Simple as that. Must win to stand any chance of staying in the big boys competition. The chief executive of Newcastle, Darren Eales, you remember Darren?
I know Darren, yes.
In his time at Tottenham.
Spurs and DC United, I think, as well, wasn't
he? Yeah, he was talking to TalkSPORT over the weekend, and he was asked, what does long-term success actually look like for Newcastle?
This is the conundrum we have, in the sense that we know where we want to get to, but you've got to plot a path to get there. And that means you've got to be efficient in your spending. And again, I go back to Eddie and the credit with what he's done with our squad. We can't just buy a whole new team. And I think he's done a brilliant job in improving the players that were there, helping them feel part of a squad. But our next part of the journey is how do we make that next step? So for us this season, it's can we get into Europe after Christmas? Obviously, that helps because it brings further revenues. So every way we can, whether it's growing commercial revenues, whether it's, success on the pitch, we've got to work together to sort of hopefully get us into that top 6 consistently.
So, you're saying, if it's all carefully planned and coordinated, we can get there. That was a lot different to where they want to get to. Amanda Staveley, meantime, executive director at Newcastle, was no doubt where Newcastle were going to go when she spoke to me after they lost the Carabao Cup final at Wembley.
Everybody's taken us on this journey. We will win the Carabao Cup, we will win the FA Cup, we will win the Champions League, and we will win the Premier League. But this is all about, the amazing fans that have taken us on this journey. And we're just honoured and humbled and feel very privileged to help run Newcastle United.
So Darren Eales says consistently top 6. That's what we're looking for. Amanda, albeit after a cup final defeat, was saying what she said. It's where they want to get to, something in between the two.
No, I think probably Amanda's is the more honest assessment, because she said it at a time when she was emotionally invested in a conversation because she was caught up in the moment, in the same way that you grab poor Marinakis, is that how you pronounce it?
Marinakis, yeah.
And got that poor fella to say things that possibly he'll regret in the future. I think it's all down to you. I do. I think that you are a bad influence on these people.
Thank you.
But I think that Newcastle, Saudis are looking to come second best, are they? That's their objective. Depends what you consider long-term to be. How does long-term look for people? I write the article that you call the Kiss of Death article, a previous one about Steve Cooper. I've written articles about you. It hasn't worked if it's a Kiss of Death. But I think that Newcastle, the ambitions have to be consistently to try and get inside the top 4. The top 6 is a little bit beneath where I think they should be looking at, because the Saudis will turn on the taps if they want. Now, of course, people will look at financial.
What do you mean by that?
Economically turn on the taps.
Yeah.
And they've been no slouches. £150 million per transfer window is a significant amount of spend. And they've bought well. And they've bought the right players, and then they've moved them along like Chris Wood when they've served their purpose. Thank you very much. We're now on a different level, on a different journey. We want a £70 million centre forward.
Yeah.
Not a £15 million forward from Burnley.
Right.
So, but I think that I maintain the view, without diminishing Eddie Howe in any shape or form, he will get them in the right direction and take them in the right direction. Will he deliver the outcomes that Amanda Staveley suggests that she wants? That clearly the Saudis want. Saudis not splattering money around like the drunken sailor in every other sport to subsequently make Newcastle the runt of the litter, are they? Is that what you think is going to happen? Newcastle, what they're doing is they play down the expectation, they manage the perception, because they don't want inflation, they don't want the dynamics of people creating a narrative around how Newcastle are going to do it. They've come to win, and to win as quickly as possible. And they've got a manager that's probably exceeded their expectations in the short term. But when we talk about the long term, is the long term this season? Because I don't think in 3 years' time, Newcastle will be satisfied with finishing inside the top 6. Do you?
No, I don't. I think the Saudis are saying minimum top 6 at this stage. And you're right. If there's any money left after what they gave to John Ram, you're right. In the next window, we'll see what the spend will be. How much do you think they'll spend in January?
Not a lot, because I don't think this.
Why? Because they need to. Surely.
Well, it depends.
Eddie needs reinforcements because of injury.
Well, it depends who's available.
They've won 8 and 16. They're 7th.
Well, it doesn't tend to be a marketplace for big clubs to spend lots of money, and Newcastle fall into the category of a big club because at the top of the division now, in the top half of the division, you don't tend to... there are exceptions, no doubt there are exceptions.
Yeah.
Liverpool brought forward Lucas Diaz, Virgil van Dijk was signed because he couldn't be signed in August because he'd put himself in a way of some unpalatable behaviour in terms of talking to Liverpool when he shouldn't have done. But most of the time, and Suarez, I think, signed in January, but most of the time, the big clubs don't do business in January. So with that in mind, I'll be surprised if they do huge business, and you'd like to think they're going to get players. Of course, they've lost Tonali, so that might be a necessity rather than a programmed scenario.
Might need to buy a goalkeeper. I mean, there's a few places they need to look.
Yeah, and they might take a goalkeeper on loan. I mean, I don't think they get... what we're talking about is perhaps preserving a position rather than enhancing it, because they've had some circumstances along the way, goalkeeper and centre midfield player being taken out of commission. That's not showing ambition, that's simply showing a need to react to the circumstances, because the ambition was shown in August.
Sure.
I expect Newcastle to spend big in the August transfer windows like the big clubs do.
Okay.
Liverpool, Manchester United, Arsenal, all of those clubs don't tend to spend big in January, do they?
Some of them do.
Who?
Well, I'll make a list for you when we come off here.
Stand up that observation.
Jim White and Simon Jordan. Monday to Friday mornings from 10. On AM, on DAB, via the TalkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. TalkSPORT.